Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into what are parts, because I find this can be one of the hardest segues into doing IFS is being able to identify different parts of ourselves and when they're showing up. Because a lot of times just feels like that's me. That's not a part. That's just the way I am. And I also find a lot of our personality is survival strategies, or I'm just an anxious person, or even some things around introverted, extroverted, that there can be protection. Like sometimes it's true, it's just us. But when it's coming from a burden part, there's often like protection or fear around it. Like if I didn't do this, something bad would happen. Versus like, I don't know, this is what I like. Like just there's like an ease and a flow to it. So I'm always curious about my belief systems, about my reactions to people in the world. Is this coming from a place of fear or is it coming from a place of alignment with my essence or who I am? A little ahead of myself, but first we just have to be able to identify parts. So I like to offer this exercise that is a bit of a parts mapping exercise, and I am going to give you a more like kind of structure just for like one instance or one scenario that will help you identify parts. But for this, we're just going to do a really big brain dump of different parts. And so if you don't already have this, please get a piece of paper and a pen. You can always pause me if you need. As I go through this exercise, if you need more time, please pause. Everybody's system's a little bit different. I know my system's sometimes fast. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So then I tend to guide things a little fast. So I apologize to your parts if I talk too fast or I just do anything that doesn't feel like a right pacing. And you could identify that part. So on your piece of paper, I'm just gonna kind of briefly move through a couple different life areas, and you just write down what resonates if you notice parts that show up in these spaces. So no right or wrong, just kind of reflecting here. So I'm curious, when you first wake up in the morning, what are some of the first thoughts that you have? Do you feel, and feelings, do you feel like refreshed? Do you feel tired? Could notice those as parts that show up first thing in the morning. Are your parts, do they have anxiety about the day? That's a part. Write that down. So just noticing the different thoughts that you have when you first start your day. Do you start running through everything that you need to do in the day? Do you feel a bit like groggy? And of course, the body is also adjusting, but oftentimes there's parts involved. So just noticing first thoughts in the morning, writing those down. And then what does your morning routine start to look like? Do you go to the washroom? Do you wash your face? Brush your teeth? What's the inner dialogue like? Thinking about your day, other people in your life, do you have children, pets? Are your thoughts calm? Are they worried? Do you feel like you have enough time? Is there a part that's rushing you? What are some of the things that might say or the feelings you get? Just noticing. There might be parts that show up around breakfast, coffee, planning your day, planning parts, to-do list parts, parts that might show up around food. Just noticing kind of inner dialogue that shows up, those beliefs, common words, feelings, the energy in the morning. Is it rushing? Is it calm? Is it tired? Overwhelmed? Those are all parts. See if you can just notice the system. Notice them as parts of you. Not good or bad, just noticing. And as you start to move through your day, maybe you're getting to work, maybe there's different routines you have. Just noticing which parts show up when you start. Maybe you check emails, interact with people. Do parts like these people? Do parts like going through emails? Or there's there resistance? Is there procrastination parts? Are there critical parts, judgmental parts of yourself, of other people? Just noticing, writing that down. How does your system start to interact with and interpret the world as you start to move through the day? Common thoughts about other people, your job, routine. Do you feel like you're behind, worried about what other people think? This is where often our performance parts show up, our perfectionism parts show up, fear of failure parts show up, taskmaster parts, keeping everything in line. Just noticing, writing it down. Again, if I'm going too fast in each section, you can always push pause for a moment and take your time. I know this can feel overwhelming sometimes to notice how many parts there are. Having a lot of parts is normal. You can also pause this exercise and come back to it at a later time. Maybe try, if you start to feel overwhelmed, write that part down on the page. I also find that the writing on the page can help get some space so you're observing that part rather than it being really close to you. You're pausing and taking a nice deep breath through the nose, into the belly, or into the heart. Just noticing the space that gets created with a breath. Another nice deep breath if that feels good. Be noticing parts that show up around lunch, towards the end of the day. You're picking up kids, wrapping up your day, emails. How are you feeling towards the end of the day, moving towards dinner? What parts are you noticing? Are there routines you're trying to get in? Do your parts feel like you're doing enough? How do you feel? Are there parts of you that kind of do things that are social or exercise, hobbies? Noticing those parts, how they kind of fit into the day or interact with other parts. Are your parts interacting with your friends, coworkers, partners, if you're dating, relationships, family? Which parts show up in your relationships? Just taking a moment. Parts that feel maybe misunderstood, frustrated, angry. Parts that feel connected, empathetic, excited, playful, joyful. Depend on the day. I know a work week day is different than a weekend day. We're just kind of doing a big kind of scoop, just starting noticing an opportunity to kind of write down or get curious about these common inner dialogues, interactions with people in your life, the common feelings that show up, parts that I just wish we were doing more or want to be doing less. Noticing parts that might show up around dinner time, kind of winding down parts. So there are parts that like to watch TV or scroll on your phone, like to cook, do you like to go out? The polarizations that show up around in the evening of what you should be doing and what you end up doing. Just writing that down. Anything else that might show up for you or stand out in your evenings? Maybe comparing weekday to weekend. How's your energy level in the evenings? Is it tired? Is it calm, energized? Noticing parts that show up around bedtime, going to sleep. Are there parts that resist it? Are there parts that like to go to bed early? Do you have a routine around going to sleep? Chores that need to be done before bedtime? How do those parts show up around routine and chores, going to sleep? Do you enjoy it? Does it feel hard? Just noticing without judgment. You can always pause here if you'd like to write more, and I'll just give you about 1 more minute just to write down any other parts that you might notice that show up throughout in the evening or in your life that you just want to put onto the page. And this will help you to do more parts work later. That's just a place to kind of just track a bit of the system. You can always add more later to this page as well, just parts. You may or may not notice, we've been really identifying a lot of kind of protector parts or manager parts that kind of help us navigate our day. You might notice underneath it a sense of aloneness, longing parts, parts that might not feel lovable, parts that struggle with shame, feeling rejected, or needs not being met. Just writing that down. Again, you can spend as long as you'd like here in this exercise. You can always come back to it, and this can kind of be a sheet to just help you track the parts. And also just help you get kind of curious about who is showing up in my life. We have to be able to kind of notice the parts to be able to start to dialogue, to start to develop a relationship. This isn't about shaming parts or labeling them as good or bad, but just to notice what's showing up in my system. Often when a part's trying to get our attention, it's because they need help doing it to make your life harder. It's from a place of protection or a place of pain that needs attention, that needs love. So the one beautiful thing about IFS is you get to kind of reparent yourself, that you get to offer these parts love and compassion, not from a place that feels hard, but there's actually a place inside of you that isn't a part, where that is effortless, where there is a unlimited amount of energy and unconditional love that it's like the sun. The sun doesn't have to work hard to nourish the earth, flowers to grow. It just happens effortlessly. So if this feels really hard, if it feels hard to love those parts or to understand those parts, it's coming from not self, but another part that also just needs to be loved, that needs to be seen and thanked and appreciated for the work that it's done to help to get you to where you are. And that you're always going to need these parts. You're always going to need them, but they are not the burdens that they carry. And within each of them is self energy as well. So this is a journey back to like remembering of who you really are and who they really are, because these beliefs about not being good enough or not being worthy or lovable are just not true. They'll make sense given your life experience. It'll make sense that these parts picked up these beliefs, but they're just not true. So this is a journey back to remembering you're never broken. There's nothing ever wrong with you. Just probably was a lot of unfortunate things that happened, sometimes legacies, your family history of so much pain, so much hurt. It's just been passed into your system. I'll see you in the next video.